An action-packed edition of the early line only gets better here. Guess, more picks, more fun. That's what we do here. I'm Donnie Rightside. He's Joe Raineri, and the man in the middle right now, he is the mouth in the South. It is Mark Zinno as we get ready to approach some college basketball. Mark, how are we feeling on this glorious Wednesday morning?
We are good. I tried to get to last night and play a first half play with Indiana State, and it ruined my perfect NIT record. As Joe Raineri has heard me brag about often this year, my perfect NIT record is my NCAA tournament record of betting underdogs in the round of 32 got absolutely destroyed. So there's that. But we press on. We look forward to the Sweet 16, and we keep going here.
There you go. No Kareem Abdul-Jabbar here in the big tournament, in the big dance, but there also are some very good teams in the tournament still left. Why? Because it's been a chalky tournament moving forward. The Sweet 16 and Elite 8 this weekend should be absolutely fantastic. So, Mark, let's start there first. If we're just taking a look at price points here, UConn down to a plus 220 price, followed by Houston at plus 550, and Purdue now down to a 550 price. If we look at the top end of that bracket, is there still some money to be made if you're betting Connecticut, Houston, and Purdue now that we're in the Sweet 16 to cut down the Nets and win a national championship?
Yeah, I still think we're undervaluing Purdue. I don't know if we're giving them enough credit. I've said this several times. I've never seen a college player of Zach Edey's status who is as good as he is and as consistent as he is, and a guy who looks like he's going to translate easily to the next level, get dumped on and crapped on more than Zach Edey because they lost to a 16 seed and because they haven't really reached their full potential. But and I'm not saying they're necessarily going to win it this year per se, but I still think that's an undervalued team. They have the easiest path to the Final Four of anybody left in this tournament of the four brackets that are there, and they're going to be a really tough out. They can only beat themselves. Put it this way, Donnie. I don't think there's a team that will beat them. If they end up losing a game, it's because they played poorly. They didn't do the things that they needed to do. They missed shots and couldn't get rebounds and things of that nature. You'll see an anomaly for Purdue to get knocked out of this tournament.
It feels like they are slowly, by the time tip-off comes, they're going to be that trendy dog, the Gonzaga team, right? Going up against Purdue. And I'm kind of with you here. It's like, why are we Matt Painter, I hope he gets sick, doesn't show up for the game, and we can take that out of the equation, would be fantastic. But that would scare me here with Gonzaga, who's had a great run, but my goodness, it feels like the public's just all over them.
They are. And here's what you're going to notice, guys, because of what happened in the round of 32 when odds makers and books got destroyed with the favorites all going 15-1 straight up. And, subsequently, I think they end up going 14-4, whatever it was, or 14-2 in the 18. So you're going to see them hold to this 5.5 line. They're not going to move off of it. They're going to stay right there. They're not going to bring it down. Because I think they know what I know, and that's Purdue is the better team. And Purdue is the one bet that I've locked in already for the Sweet 16. I have that much confidence in this team right now. And I'll give you one more tip, guys, the way I'm approaching the Sweet 16. Similar to the NFL playoffs, I don't think the spread is going to matter. I think the favorite's going to win handily. The dog is going to win outright. Just pick the winner of the game and bet that. If you're taking the dog, sprinkle a little bit on the money line as well, because I think that's the way a lot of these games are going to go. When you get to this level of comparable talent and you only have one double-digit seed, thank God, because I'm not a big fan of all these Cinderellas getting to this point. But nonetheless, even that double-digit team is a Power 5 team. It's not a smaller school. It's a team that's used to playing legitimate competition. So outside of Clemson and NC State, you're getting high-level programs playing against other high-level programs. Just pick the winner, ignore the spread.
Making adjustments in the tournament here is what most handicappers will do in order to make money. Before the tournament started, I was down, Mark, on the ACC. I figured it was a one-team league with North Carolina. Now, granted, North Carolina looks very good early on. Wasn't that high on Duke, specifically NC State. Oh, when's their run going to come then? They're still continuing. And then you find Clemson here making a run as well. So the question I want to ask you is, after watching the first two rounds of the tournament, is there a team that maybe you were a little bit lower on that's starting to rise up the board for you, maybe can make you some money?
Well, look, let me preface what you're saying by saying this, and I've said this repeatedly. Nothing any team does in the tournament validates or invalidates whether they belong there. They are completely unrelated events. The resume you put together to get into the tournament, even Virginia, the resume they put in to get in this tournament, because they got smoked in their first round game, does not invalidate them being there. I know we all didn't believe that they belonged there. I was the one who said they didn't belong there, but I didn't believe the reason that they lost wasn't because they didn't belong in the tournament. They got in. If they play a different opponent, the outcome might be completely different with a different seed. So I can't stand people try to do that. Oh, well, the ACC still had a down year, Donnie. There's no denying that. There's literally no denying that the ACC had a down year. So I don't care what NC State did. That doesn't say that the ACC had a great year. They didn't. Anyway, now to answer your question. The team I think that we're not really getting enough value on at this point in time, honestly, and I scratch my head at it because if you bring up those odds to win the national championship again, is North Carolina the 1 seed? You're still getting better than 10-1 at a lot of shops. Like, they're the number 1 seed. Arizona's a 2 seed in that bracket. I mean, it already tells you that if Arizona and UNC both win, Arizona's a 2.5, 3-point favorite in that game. But when you're getting like 13-1, as those odds showed, for the North Carolina Tar Heels, who have looked very, very impressive to this point, to not, to win the national title, I think is fantastic number. I mean, I don't know that you're going to, at this point, find any better odds for a 1 seed, right? I mean, 10-1 for any 1 seed to get to this point. If they get there, you're looking at 2 coin flip games, especially if UConn gets bounced out by San Diego State or either Iowa State on the way out the door. So I think it's very legitimate that North Carolina has a shot to get to the finals. And at that point, you're hedging.
Thought it was crazy, too, that we've never had a tournament winner west of Baylor since 1997. So the Arizonas of the world, the Pac-12, the Cal, have never actually won a tournament since 1997, which is bonkers. It's been all either Texas or Kansas east of that. Knowing that, Donnie, which is going to be, of the 4 number ones left here in the Sweet 16, which one loses first?
I mean, could UConn really get bounced? Like, I mean,
I don't think so.
But, I mean, look, if there was a team left that could do it because of the style of defense that they play, look, and I don't think San Diego State's defense this year is as good as it was last year. That said, this is clearly a big revenge matchup of last year's national title game, and does San Diego State have something up their sleeve that they figured out from the last time these two teams played at this high of a level? I don't know. But look, if UConn's going to get bounced, it's probably going to be in this game, right? Like, I think they could overpower Iowa State as much as my Iowa State future would be burned to shreds. But I think they're probably too much for Iowa State. And then once they get to the Final Four, it's their tournament to lose. So this is the spot where they have to get tripped up, where a team has 4 or 5 days to prepare for them. They've seen them before. It's not their first go around with it. Like, this may be the one true hurdle that UConn has to clear here to get through. And I think, obviously the other most vulnerable one is Purdue, just because we have this narrative out there that they're Purdue and they're going to lose. So I don't buy into narratives that much, but that's probably what most of the public will tell you, that Purdue is likely the highest 1 seed to lose.
Take a look at some of these Thursday night games here, 9:39 tip time on the West Coast. That's going to be Alabama and North Carolina. We are expecting points here, Mark. A total at the FanDuel Sportsbook lining up at 173.5. We don't usually see these type of numbers here. So from a handicapping perspective, when you look at that 173.5 in an NCAA tournament game on a neutral court site here, what do you make of that? Does he say, you know what, tempo makes sense, I'll take the over? Or is there a general thought that, wow, that's a lot of points, I can't take that over?
When I look at the first thing that jumped out to me when I looked at the game, Donnie, I don't want to avoid your question about the total, but this is too many points. Like, hasn't Alabama been power rated higher than North Carolina all year long? Right? Like, I mean, I get that their defense has been a problem. And look, sometimes we do this in college basketball. We see one game and we hang our hats on it, right? Like, we saw Alabama get rolled by Kentucky where they scored 110 points in regulation, and all of a sudden, well, Alabama stinks. They can't play. Their defense is terrible. No, they're still a really good team. They've been in KenPom in the top 10 the entire year. So, that's a narrative you can try to create, but it's not reality. There's an argument to say Alabama's been a better team all year long than North Carolina, and they should probably be favored. Like, that's what jumped out to me. Now, to answer your question about the total, if Alabama's going to win this game, I wouldn't go back to the well with them scoring 65 points like they did against Grand Canyon, saying they're going to do that 2 games in a row and win a basketball game. I mean, it's purely correlated here that this thing goes over. It's in Alabama's favor. If somehow North Carolina can slow them down and not let them make shots, then, North Carolina is going to have a grip on this game that's going to be hard to let go. So I played the under at 173 in Alabama's first matchup against College of Charleston because I'm an idiot, and I just like the contrarian play there with a total that was that high that we hadn't seen in 30 years. So I figured it would go under. It did not, but I would tend to think here this thing goes over regardless. There's certainly a way where it can go over and North Carolina can win, but I don't think there's a way that this thing stays under and Alabama wins.
So which one inevitably there's going to be one dog that barks and wins outright this week? So who is it? Who do you give the best shot to actually outright win on the money line, plus money, get it done?
As frustrating as it is, because I bet against them last round. In fact, I bet against them in the first round. I bet against them in the second round. And I have a future going on Arizona, so I'm technically betting again. But if the Clemson Tigers continue to shoot 56% from the field, they're going to beat everybody they're going to play. That's just the reality of the situation. Like, I don't know how to lay it out any clearer than that. Clemson is not a really great team. They're a good team, but they're not a team that shoots 55, 56% for any extended stretch this year. If they somehow can carry it over to the Sweet 16, they're not going to lose. They're just not. They have enough talent and enough athleticism and enough size. This but also walked into UNC and beat them, walked into Duke and beat them, right? So they're battle tested from that standpoint. They're not scared of anybody. But if they're going to shoot at the level that they did against New Mexico and against Baylor, they're going to knock Arizona off, guys.
Friday night, also Sweet 16, 4 games across the landscape. NC State, Marquette, Gonzaga versus Purdue, Duke, Houston, and Creighton, Tennessee. Of those 4 games on Friday, what has your eye here, Mark?
Well, I mean, Marquette is a team that also another team I have a future on. I just only have 3 left after Auburn got burned out in the first round. But Marquette's an interesting team to me. I think I have been high on them all year long. I've had several conversations with people in the industry. I think they're underrated. I think they're every bit as good as UConn. And had they been healthy and had Tyler Kolek been healthy in that final matchup, they beat UConn. This is a very talented team. And Tyler Kolek, now that he's back, is starting to get in the fold. I think a few games under the belt have really sort of, got them back to a place where they were earlier in the year, where they were a top 5 team in the country. They are extremely good at shooting the basketball. They're very, very fast and athletic on defense. This is a team that does it very well on both ends of the floor. So I think Marquette gets past that first round. Houston is interesting because this is another team that, like, if they don't get tripped up here, they're probably in the Final Four. But this is a styles make fights kind of matchup here against Duke. It's their defense versus the Duke's offense. They shoot and can shoot the 3 and be really, really good from a scoring standpoint. You'll find out pretty quick, I think, in the first 5 minutes who's going to come out on top in that game.
I love it. I'm with Mark here. Like, a lot of us love upsets when they happen in the moment, but then we realize what those upsets mean in the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and the Final Four. We're like, where are the Blue Bloods in the big-time programs? We got great college basketball. Thanks to Mark Zinno for joining us this morning on a Wednesday to break it all down.